Hello everybody, I'm back, and I'm going to try to do my job again, so let's talk about some news. Okay, so today we're talking about Michael Knowles. He is a host of The Daily Wire, the show that's run by Ben Shabibo. And I'll get it out of the way. He's got a massive mouth. Okay, I don't mean to body shame. I'm not even saying it in a bad, I'm saying it in a bad way for sure. But I know, like, it's gonna be on everybody's mind. So take a look at it. I know it's disgusting. I know it's just revolting to look at. A few days ago, CPAC happened, the Conservative Political Action Conference, where you have a bunch of right-wing grifters and politicians speak at this conference and just like talk about how much they hate minorities for like hours on end. And Michael Knowles, guy with the big mouth that we just talked about, actually spoke at this conference, and this is what he said.
There can be no middle way in dealing with transgenderism. It is all or nothing. If transgenderism is true, if men really can become women, then it's true for everybody of all ages. And if it's false, then we should not indulge it, especially since that indulgence requires taking away the rights and customs of so many people. If it is false, then for the good of society, and especially for the good of the poor people who have fallen prey to this confusion, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology at every level.
So obviously there's like a myriad of problems with this line of thinking that he has. It really makes no sense. It's like this big long monologue that's like a big string of words that doesn't add up to anything, but then when you just end it with like, oh, let's like exterminate trans people, then obviously your audience base is going to go crazy over it. Anyways, this happens. Of course, people are upset because he's calling for trans people to be eradicated and acts as if like transgenderism has taken hold of every cis person's life. Like all of a sudden we're living in this society where trans people are like controlling us. Transgenderism isn't even a term people use. It's not, that's not real. It's a term only used by conservatives when talking about how we need to get rid of transgenderism. Which, hey, as a person who does live in the real world, no, this hasn't had any effect on a cis person's life. You can literally just do what you were doing before. But after this happened, the Rolling Stone put out an article with the title, CPAC Speaker Calls for Transgender People to be Eradicated. And then it includes a quote from Michael Knowles that says, for the good of society, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. And then it includes that insane photo of him underneath it, which is just so hard to look at. So he tweets out this article and he says, this headline is libelous and I demand a retraction. Even though underneath the title of the article, it literally has a quote from him, the exact quote. But for Michael Knowles, there's a big difference between saying that transgenderism should be eradicated and that transgender people should be eradicated, which is a really confusing riddle to figure out in your head, because being a transgender person is locked in with your identity. That is just who you are. That's in the definition of it. So if you call for that to be eradicated from society, what else could you possibly mean besides getting rid of those people? So Michael Knowles is really upset about the fact that Rolling Stone just like said what he said, and he demands a retraction, which doesn't, why does he care if they take it down or not? Because that is what he's trying to say. That's what's between the lines. He just can't legally like say that without getting in trouble. So then Rolling Stone put out an article that says CPAC speaker calls for eradication of transgenderism and somehow claims he's not calling for the elimination of transgender people, which is a 10 out of 10 title. And they use that same creepy photo of him. They gotta get rid of that photo. Freaks me out. And the Rolling Stone interviews Aaron Reed, who's a transgender rights activist and writer, who tells the Rolling Stone that it's an absurd distinction. There's no difference between a ban on transgenderism and an attack on transgender people. They're one and the same, and there's no separation between them, which I can absolutely agree with. Reed also says that these right-wing grifters at the Daily Wire aren't just talking about keeping transgender people out of public life, they're actively working to make it happen. She noted their support for bills to deprive transgender people of gender-affirming medical care, bans on using public bathrooms, and targeting of live performances by trans individuals. These are all things that Michael Knowles and others at the Daily Wire literally say they want passed, which make it impossible for trans people to live, yet they don't want to get rid of trans people They just want to get rid of the fact that they're trans, I guess. So then I went on YouTube and watched some of Michael Knowles' latest broadcast talking about his whole CPAC speech and what he actually meant by eradicating transgenderism. And let's listen to the first part of this video.
The problem with transgenderism is that it is not true.
So his biggest issue with transgenderism is that it's not true. Like, what are you talking about?
Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life. Have I made myself clear? I'm Michael Knowles. This is the Michael Knowles Show.
It is so bizarre for people to be like, oh, well, it's not a real thing. These are just people who like have delusions in their head.
A delusional vision of human nature.
But at the same time, you're advocating for like traditionalism and to keep things the same as they were before, which is actually an invisible idea. The idea of being traditionalist is really nothing except for a series of like societal norms that you're like expected to follow. And you just really like following those norms. You get off on it.
Welcome back to the show. My favorite comment on Friday is from 10 Ollie, who says, Michael's solution to most problems is just be normal. That is very true.
So Michael's solution, unironically, to all of this and to like most of politics is just be normal. Like act normal, act more normal. Maybe if we made people normal style, then we'd stop having so many problems in this country. You know what else isn't real? Like you say transgenderism is be normal. That's not a real thing either. That's just like you're saying words. Michael Knowles wants every single man in America to be like a little Nazi boy inside of a big man suit that has a big mouth on it. I think that's exactly who he is. And then he legitimately does this.
I said, just be normal. Let's do normal stuff. Let's, acknowledge basic realities. And I was accused of genocide for that. Can you imagine? That's pretty crazy. And when the economy's getting crazy, you're going to want to check out gold. Right now, text Knowles to 989898. Here's the deal.
He transitions from talking about eradicating trans people to doing a brand deal.
Well, then the press decided to call me a genocidal maniac. Genocidal. I'm a genocidal maniac, and I'm genocidal. I choose my words, generally speaking, pretty carefully.
So this video is literally 45 minutes long, and I think almost all of it is just dedicated to talking about trans people, which is like most of the Daily Wire's episodes. They're just obsessed with them. It's funny because in the same breath, they'll say stuff like, why are you doing so much to accommodate for like this small percentage of people? But at the same time, they act like, oh, this transgenderism is taking over the world and everybody's trans now and like our world is falling apart because of trans people. Now let's get another quick idea of what he means by eradicating trans people, because he wouldn't want to actually harm people. He doesn't want to like hurt anybody. I mean, he just used the term eradicate, that's just, it doesn't sound bad at all.
What would it mean to eradicate the preposterous ideology of transgenderism from public life at every level? I'll tell you, but first I got to clear the air a little bit. When you want to clear the air, you got to check out Rabbit Air. Right now, go to rabbitair.com, tell them Michael Knowles sent you. And when I am lighting up a big fat stogie, there is no greater sponsor than Rabbit Air.
Michael Knowles has like the biggest shit-eating grin on his big fat mouth while he talks about how big and smelly of a shit he takes, so he can advertise his like stupid ass sponsor for some like air purifier. Rabbit Air. We eradicate Michael Knowles' big smelly mud pies. And also trans people.
Eradicating transgenderism from public life would mean behaving as American society did before, say, 2015. Before around 2015, we did not have any acceptance of transgenderism in public life.
So his plan to eradicate transgenderism is to just bring us back to 2015. He just loves how it was before then. Yeah, that would just solve so many problems if we just went back in time. That's like, you're a political pundit. Like, you need to have solutions to our problems. You can't just be like, I wish we could go back in time. I wish Tony Stark could build a time machine and we could go back to when trans people didn't exist, because they never did. They didn't used to exist, and then they made them in 2015 in a lab. So that's basically all I have to say about the situation. I think Michael Knowles is just like another slimy little gremlin with a big shit-eating mouth who is just like obsessed with trans people and wants to get in their business as much as he can because it makes him money. The brand deal shit is just crazy to me, and the fact that he's really like doubling down on it is just awesome. It's really just as much as I could expect from one of those guys. But either way, thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from this video. Sorry I haven't been posting much. Let me know if you want me to talk more about this stuff. I don't know. If you have any stories or things you think would be funny for me to cover, email it to me. And check out the new videos I've been posting on the main channel. I've got some other new ones up there that you probably haven't seen yet. I've got a lot of videos on this channel that are just disasters. Anyways, that's it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Bye.